Welcome to episode 44 of the Roundtable. I'm Grant Brisbee. I'm here with McCullough and Marc Carig. Marc, you're back. We missed you. Levi was on last week. He sucked. He was terrible. So you got to clean up his mess. No, I'm kidding. How you doing? Let's start with Marc. Marc, I love your jersey here.
Thanks. The Norfolk Tides wore this on Saturday night and scored 21 runs against Gwinnett.
Now, I don't want to break this to you, but this is an audio medium. And so even though we do have a YouTube show, no one can see your jersey on a podcast. It's like, you know, iPods, like they put them on the iPods. And so it's like streaming into their ears. So maybe describe the jersey.
I'll describe this. This is a Norfolk Lumpia's jersey
so good.
for Filipino American Heritage Night or something like. I don't know the exact name for it, but there's a lot of Filipinos down that way because the Navy is down that way. And if you've ever been around the Navy, you know, it's a bunch of dudes that look like me. So anyway, Trent Rosecrans, who is, you know, the most Filipino, non-Filipino person that I know, sent me the link and said, "Oh my God, dude." And so he went and bought a hat. I went and bought a shirt or a jersey. My wife saw what I was doing, said, "Get me a shirt." So I got her a shirt. And so here we are. And like, so yeah, the Norfolk Tides playing as Olympia scored 21 runs
so good.
In their game. They were also 2.5 hours late for first pitch, but that's okay. That's all right. I don't know if there's a better way to honor our heritage than to be late. That's just how it is. You know, Grant getting all uncomfortable and red. It's okay, dude. We're all friends. It's okay.
Super uncomfortable. See, but yeah, I have Filipino bona fides. I lived in Daly City for a year. So
man,
you know,
that grants you citizenship. Andy, I don't know if you've ever been to Daly City, but imagine Manila.
No,
but hillier.
But hillier Manila.
Yeah, hillier, colder Manila, and it's Daly City.
Yeah.
It is.
Marc, do you think you would have been drummed out of the Navy as quickly as my dad drummed me out of the construction business?
Probably faster.
Yeah,
probably faster.
All right. What's your worst flaw as a construction guy, Andy? What is your shittiest contribution to the construction arts?
I mean, just abject laziness. Just not following the assignment, just like 90 minutes into the workday, asking if it was lunchtime. Now, to be clear, I was like 13. Okay. So, you know, I was really only responsible for just like picking crap up, basically. And even that, I was like, yeah, my back hurts. My dad's like, you're 13. You're not allowed to have, you know, your back hurt, I guess.
So did you bring this information to a vocational counselor at your high school and they're like, well, you should be a baseball writer?
No.
Laziness.
No.
Like that was like the number one box they checked off.
No, my high school guidance counselor encouraged me to I wanted to go to Georgetown, and she encouraged me to apply for the Walsh School of Foreign Service, which is like more exclusive than like every Ivy combined. They let in like 6 kids a year, and they're all like the sons of diplomats. So, you know, I became a sports writer.
Did you actually go there? No, you just applied there, or
to Georgetown?
Yeah.
Do you think I would ever speak to a person like you, Grant, if I hadn't become a baseball writer and had gone to an august institution like that?
I don't know. Well, I figure if you had gotten into that school, you would have been there with a bunch of dorks that like carried briefcases to junior high.
No,
and you would have bounced.
I'd be incredibly rich and committing evil across the globe.
That does sound good.
Well, he could have also gone there and like gotten the degree, then still ended up doing this like an idiot, and then starting every podcast with things like, well, ahoy polloi.
That's just how I start every phone conversation that Marc and I
all right, we got baseball to talk about. Turns out that they have like games every day.
Every day,
it's
man.
Wild. It's wild. Do you think that football writers are weenies? Because I do. Like one game a week, and then we get to talk about it and then preview the next game. Bunch of weenies, but no, we're talking baseball. Let's start with the Rays. I guess the Rays are the talk of baseball. The Rays, man. They are 10-0 as of this recording. They will never lose again, as the Chiron says. And let me get there because we're nerds. Their run differential, they have scored 76 runs. They have allowed 18. That seems okay. That seems like it'll play.
I was reading something on the Associated Press just had a little game recap from the Rays winning 11-0 over the A's. I was reading this on Sunday, and it said that Jeffrey Springs had thrown 7 scoreless innings. And I was like, no, that's not true. It was Drew Rasmussen. Like, wow, what an embarrassing, I was like, that's so weird. I hope they correct that. And then I realized, no, that was the day before they won 11-0 over the A's.
Well, listen, man, like I think Tampa Bay obviously off to a great start. I think they're underachieving a little bit. I mean, the Pythagorean is like 9-1. Like that's their 9-1.
That's a great point.
I mean,
or getting lucky rather, not underachieving. They're just getting a little bit lucky.
Yeah, they're a bit over their skis.
Yeah, a little over their skis at 10-0 by one win. I was just curious because like when you said 76 runs, what does that work out to? Like, what does your Pythagorean have to be for it to be 10-0?
Right? That's a great question because they've won the first 9 games by 4 runs or more.
Yeah, then won a classic 1-0. We're going to suffocate you Tampa Bay Rays ball game last night. So.
Well, I can calculate this real quick if you just enter the run scored and the number of games.
Here comes the abacus.
Nope, I'm an English major. Sorry, I got nothing. But it's at some point I would guess that you round up instead of down, and then you get 10-0 because it's ridiculous. And there's a lot of talk, and rightfully so. Like, listen, they opened the season with the Tigers. They played the Nationals in Washington. Then they got to go home again for the A's. They've played one functional team, and that's the Red Sox. As of this recording, they won 1-0. So not a blowout. Maybe they're just a very, very, very good team. But I don't think, yes, they didn't play anyone really in the first 9 games at the same time. What do you expect? Like, what do you want from them to do? Well, they blew them out.
I guess the question, though, is does this change your opinion at all about the end game for the Rays? Right? Like, does it change how you feel about them as a team? For me, it doesn't, right? Like, I thought they were a good team. I thought they're going to make the postseason. I think they are going to struggle to hit elite pitching, but they're really good. They're a good club. If they didn't play in the American League East, you could, look at this team as 95 wins. We'll see, maybe they'll get a bye. And in the American League East, it's maybe they'll get 3rd. Maybe they'll win the division. We'll see. So I don't know. I tend to be an underreactor, I guess, to things. But it's certainly they look good. They're playing well.
Yeah. When I get a team like this and they're surprising, they're blowing the doors off everyone, I look to how they're doing it and I see, does this align with my preseason? If this happens, if this very plausible thing happens, this team could go bananas. And is that sort of thing going on? And so for me, watching Wander Franco kind of go nuts, that's one of those things where, okay, if that happens, the Rays might move from pretty good team in the AL East to this is something. And Randy Arozarena, I think he has another level. We see it in the postseason in the WBC. If he hits that other level, maybe the Rays are something closer to an elite team, and that's happening. And you're getting the pitching, of course. The starting pitching is absurd, but also very specifically, Zach Eflin. Is he going to they chose him and they gave him a huge contract for the Rays and really put all their chips on him and said, no, we think this guy's going to work. We're pretty committed to him. And that looks good too. So everything that I my kind of benchmarks for, is this going to be a Rays team that's closer to an elite team than a very good team, have been hit? Doesn't mean anything. Still 10 games. But I am kind of going,
Well, let's go back to 2 weeks ago as we were previewing the American League East. And I think one of the points that I'd raised with this club was that, all right, if this was the old school and they were playing all those AL East teams 19 times, it's a little bit of a different forecast, but they're not doing that anymore. And instead of having those extra games against Toronto or New York, you're getting Oakland, you're getting Cincinnati, you're getting, just pick a rando, right? Team that the Rays are a good team. I think we all agreed upon that right away. Well, what do good teams do? they win the games they're supposed to win. Now,
take care of business.
They do. And look what they've done. They've taken care of business. And what I'm interested in seeing, I mean, obviously, when you look at some of these numbers, these are not sustainable. But can you envision this lineup taking advantage of some really bad pitching? Sure, absolutely. Can you see this pitching staff just choking the life out of some like fourth place team that they're getting extra cracks at this year? Absolutely. And I think it adds up over time. So yeah, still an uphill climb. And certainly you're not going to look at, some of these numbers that we're seeing now and think that they're all sustainable. They're obviously not. But what is sustainable to me is that I look at a team on paper that these guys can take care of business against teams that are clearly inferior. And if you do that, that's 90 wins right there. It feels like, right? You're now at a 90 win level, and then it becomes, all right, how are these guys stacking up against that elite pitching? Maybe they still struggle against it, right? Because the lineup depth is still going to be a thing. But the thing about the Rays is that they're going to catch the ball and they're going to prevent runs. That means they're always going to be in those games. And when they're in those games, it's a coin flip. And if it breaks their way, now all of a sudden you see it, being a little bit better than, let's say, a 90 win projection. So, obviously the numbers that we're seeing are not going to linger on, but them beating up on teams, I can see that lingering on.
I can't get over how bad these teams are.
Oh,
I was just sorry. I was just looking through like the lineups. I mean, it's like, yeah. I the one thing, right, is that they have 10 wins banked, right? Like they're just like in the bank. That's what banked means. They just have them, and they have a bit of a small cushion. Now it can go away with a bad week, but this is the sort of team that is built to like not have good weeks. They're going to pitch enough where, they're going to be in most games. So it's certainly like for downs to their benefit. It certainly is a good thing to have. I just don't know. Yeah, like if Wander Franco and Randy Arozarena level up, all of a sudden the ceiling on this team levels up. Like let's see them face like a team that is like competent.
I just can't get over their pitching factory. And it is as absurd as almost anything I've ever seen. Like Brad Pitt should come out of retirement and make a darn movie about this because it's wild as far as like Jeffrey Springs, the Red Sox basically gave him to a division rival because he was approaching 30. He was a nondescript pitcher. He just kind of floated around the majors with 6 and 7 ERAs. The Rays were able to look at that and not just make him a functional starter, but weaponize him. And the ability to do that is wild to me. And I talked to someone who worked for the Rays in the offseason, and he was saying after the Zach Eflin deal was announced, he said, we don't have to do anything with Zach Eflin. We don't have to teach him a new splitter or something like that. We can just take Zach Eflin and say, here's how we think you should get hitters out, and he can throw the ball wherever he wants to, and he'll be much better. And, he was already pretty good, but now he's much better. And they just have this, they can see in like 7 dimensions when it comes to pitching. And that's important to say.
The pitching factory part, right, we've seen it for so many years now, and it really is remarkable. Another thing they do really well is when they go out there and make a trade, make an acquisition, they're hitting, they're like Isaac Paredes, for instance. Yeah. I mean, my goodness, right? And like what's happened with Austin Meadows, obviously it's terrible. Hasn't been on the field. It's horrible. And hope that he gets through this, right? And by the way, like talk about some like guts to just say what it is that way. And I am actually like heartened by the fact it seems like the stigma around mental health is easing little by little. You're always going to have like the outlier idiot, on Twitter saying stupid shit. But like, I looked through the other day just because I was curious and was like surprised and like in a good way of how little relatively that was. Like, because imagine like even a few years ago, it'd be a bit of a different ratio. So, but anyway, you know, Paredes is just such a great example to me of you know, they make a trade, hits 20 home runs last year, off to a good start this year. He's gonna be a crucial piece for them, and I think that almost gets overlooked with this group, right? Because the pitching and what they're able to do with run prevention is so well documented, and you see it every year. But man, like they make a trade and they always end up with a useful player. It seems like somebody who's going to help the club win some ball games. So, and Paredes is another example of that just a year ago.
Yeah, I do remember when that trade was made. I thought, I have no idea who Isaac Paredes is, but I look forward to seeing him at the All-Star game in 2 years.
It's the Sam Miller tweet. We're just going to keep going back to it.
Yeah. I think the thing, you know, what getting into their sort of transactional nature, which is what they've been for so long, right? They like, it's something that is both like, you know, depending on your perspective, it's admirable or it's craven or whatever. It's some mixture, right? They just churn. They churn through the roster. They, you know, they're not afraid to make heartless, you know, ruthless is what Eric Neander said to me a couple of years ago. Like, they're not afraid to be ruthless, right? When it comes to making these moves, they're in a really interesting spot, I think, long term, because, you know, I wrote about this a little bit the other day. You look at that roster, right? You got Wander Franco forever. Okay. You got all these pitchers for 4 or 5 years. You have Randy Arozarena still for several years. Like, the team is there. And if they want this to be the group, they can ride with this group for a while, right? It's like, it's similar to what the Braves have, except for they're not spending any money. Right? Like, because they've got all these, you know, sort of pre-arb guys, and they rode out some growing pains with younger players last year. And, you know, they've signed like Springs to, you know, an extension. They have Eflin for a few years. They even have Glasnow for next year with an option for 25. Like, they have the thing that, you know, the people from the Stu Sternberg tree talk about. They have optionality, right? And so it makes them like, they can do nothing and they'll be okay. And they can also be in a position to do everything.
Here's something that a fast start affords them in a team that situation, because we've talked about it before. They've tried to sign, they've made good faith efforts to sign a bigger hitter or a bigger star, and it's hard for them because they play in front of, you know, 10,000 people or what have you. It's not the most glamorous franchise as far as, you know, going into a dome and this and that. But now when you have this fast start, you're not at the deadline going, well, you know, we're kind of in the thick for this wild card, and if this pans out, if they're just lapping the field and there comes a player like Juan Soto or someone who is under contract for a while, for a couple years, if there's going to be, I don't know if it's the Brewers trading Corbin Burns, or if there's just going to be someone that they can get that can be that sort of cornerstone, and that player doesn't have a choice. You know, he's got to go to the Rays because he's traded. That might be what this fast start affords them, is just the ability to be confident and go out and get someone that's around for a few years.
Man, that would be fun.
Yeah. I just want to make clear the official position of this podcast, right? Which is my opinions. We don't know that they're going to be lapping the field. They played 10 games. The Yankees and Blue Jays are good.
This is true. I just think they're closer to that.
They have a 4-game
reality.
They have a 4-game lead.
I will say
they haven't played the Yankees yet. The Yankees are very good.
Yeah, and they got Toronto coming up here pretty soon too. Yeah. So that'll be fun. But like,
it would be funny if they were like 23-1 or something. We just had to come on here every week and talk about the Rays.
And we're still just like, I don't know. It's early. I don't know. But like, you know what? If anything, this is just a reminder of a couple really important things. Like, okay, Grant, you're talking about no one watches him. It's unglamorous, right? This is the classic Rays mentality. When you talk to people in that organization and you say that, they look at you like, well, yeah, and it's an awesome advantage. You're like, what? Like, in a way, it is, because, like, you know, you can try all of this different stuff there without the same scrutiny that you would face everywhere else. Now, look, you hear that, and like, I've laughed in people's faces there. I was like, okay, whatever. But like, at least it does give you an insight into how it is that they're able to pull this off. In every bad scenario, they're looking for a way to turn it into something where they can leverage it All right. And like, that's a perfect example right there. Okay, sure. You struggle with the gate. People don't pay attention to them, yet they've managed to find a way to make that positive, which is they're trying a bunch of different things. And so when they start 10-0, this is not like a projection where you think, well, they're going 162-0, despite what the Chiron just said. But it is a reminder that they keep doing different things and it keeps working.
Yeah.
And that's the latter part, right? Like we've seen clubs like kind of be ahead of things and like they don't stay ahead of things. Like, okay, we're talking about the transactional nature of this team. The Oakland A's operated that way for a while too. All right. Now I know that there's outside factors.
Yeah, they chose
involved.
to stop operating that way, though. They chose that.
Yeah, I mean, anyway, like Tampa Bay keeps trying stuff, it keeps working.
Yeah.
And I think that's fun. All right. Like that they and so, but I'm really interested in how Andy framed that. You just can't, the Chiron says you can't spell Rays without A's. Very good. But what Andy's talking about is interesting to me, that you can do nothing, you can do everything. And what a fun spot to be in. And I kind of like have this. There's almost like we're talking about Carlos Correa, obviously in the offseason, and he ends up with Minnesota. And what did it take? Right? Like it took 2 failed physicals. It took an ankle that sounds like a tuning fork for a piano. It took all this crazy stuff.
Termites.
And I'm kind of wondering, like, hey, what about the Rays? It would be fun to watch it sort of fall into their lap somehow. And like, because they have made good faith efforts to get guys like Freddie Freeman.
Yep.
Like, I don't know, after toiling this way and after facing all of the challenges that they face, I think it would be kind of a nice thing from the baseball gods to let him freaking have him. Throw him a bone. Let one of those guys at the trade deadline end up falling in their lap somehow. Because I don't know. I think the way they've operated has been overall pretty admirable. And that's what the start sort of reminds us of, I think.
I will say that I will walk back my comments that the Rays are undesirable a little bit, because I want to point out that I cover the Giants, who also have really struggled to sign a star, whether it's Bryce Harper or trading for Giancarlo Stanton, because it's hard for any team to get these players. There's a finite amount of them, and they have agency. Literally, it's in the name, free agency, and they get to go where they want to go. And there are 30 teams, and not every team's going to get that star. Maybe if it's the Padres throwing an extra year and extra 30 million at someone is what it takes. But in general, it's hard to get a star. And so we shouldn't besmirch the Rays' good name all the time. I think it's just tough to go out there and convince someone that you're it. Maybe they'll be better at it going forward.
Well, you also have to convince them, hey, do you want to play your home games in front of half-empty crowds, right? Which, like, maybe that'll change as the stadium situation gets, fixed up, or how whatever's gonna. I don't. It's something. There's the bridge and traffic.
It really does suck. I mean, it's not easy to get to.
Yeah, whatever. But like, that makes the sell tougher, especially when they tend to offer like market value. So if you're Freddie Freeman and you're choosing between 2 deals that are relatively similar financially, even if you're leaving money off the table with the tax situation by going to California, do you want to play for the Los Angeles Dodgers in front of a packed crowd where they have new lights? Or do you want to play in the Trop where they have no lights? Like, it's tough.
I think
I love the Trop, by the way. I love the Trop. Best ballpark in baseball.
There it is. There's the ball rider take right there. Best ballpark in baseball, the Trop.
I think if I'm just your standard baseball superstar, you have to phrase it like, do you want to go to Florida and live with the salt of the earth people? Or do you want to play in California where like 40% of your salary goes to fund Gavin Newsom's agenda? What do you really want? What's important to you once you have enough money, pal? That's how I frame it.
Oh boy, Grant. Someone just filed his taxes and got his California return back and was like, what?
I'm teasing. We don't get political on the pod except when we talk about union first players. What's the catchphrase? I forgot the catchphrase.
We're the only pro-labor podcast.
The only pro-labor podcast. That's right. That's right.
We salute our minor league brethren.
It seems like there's a new data breach in the news every other day. In 2022 alone, there were over 1,800 data breaches that exposed personal information of over 422 million individuals. Victims of data breaches are easy targets for all sorts of cyber crimes. We are thrilled to partner with Aura. Aura is an all-in-one online safety solution that helps protect you and your family from identity theft, financial fraud, and online threats before they happen. With Aura, you can rest easy knowing that someone is looking out for you, and it is easy. They have a simple-to-use app or website. Answer a few questions, and you are up and running. If you're a victim of ID theft, their experienced white-glove fraud resolution team will help you navigate credit bureaus, help you initiate credit freezes or locks, and work with you around the clock to resolve it. Aura offers a suite of tools to protect you and your loved ones, including real-time alerts on suspicious credit activity, computer virus protection, parental controls, a VPN, and a password manager. Aura also helps reduce annoying robocalls, telemarketers, and junk mail by sending takedown requests on your behalf regularly. For a limited time, Aura is offering our listeners a 14-day trial plus a check of your data to see if your personal information has been leaked online. All for free when you visit aura.com/MLB show. That's aura.com/MLB show to sign up for a 14-day free trial and start protecting you and your loved ones. That's aura.com/MLB show. Certain terms apply, so be sure to check the site for details. This spring, you need nutritious, convenient meals to energize you for warmer, active days and keep you on track reaching your goals. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, can help you fuel up fast with ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. You'll save time, eat well, and tackle everything on your to-do list. I know with myself working, my wife working, and then chasing our 1-year-old around the apartment, there's not a lot of time left over for cooking, and Factor comes up huge. Skip the trip to the grocery store and skip the chopping, prepping, and cleaning up too. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes, so all you have to do is heat and enjoy, then get back outside and soak up the warmer weather. They offer delicious flavor-packed options on the menu each week to fit a variety of lifestyles, from keto to calorie smart, vegan, and veggie, plus protein plus, prepared by chefs and approved by dietitians. Each meal has all the ingredients you need to feel satisfied all day long while meeting your goals. Want to cut back on takeout? Get Factor instead. Not only is Factor cheaper than takeout, but meals are ready faster than restaurant delivery in just 2 minutes. With Factor, you can rest assured you're making a sustainable choice. We offset 100% of our delivery emissions to your door and feature sustainably sourced seafood in our meals. Head to factormeals.com/MLB50 and use code MLBShow50 to get 50% off your first box. That's code MLBShow50 at factormeals.com/MLBShow50 to get 50% off your first box.
But I guess this bleeds into the question of when do you start taking April statistics seriously, or early season statistics seriously? When do you stop being, Rays are 10-0, that's cute, they beat a bunch of bad teams, come back in blank and see where they're at? Is it May? Is it June? Is it, for me, it's November 1st where I get to look back and say, I see how that happened. So like, when do you start trusting stuff?
I do feel like sometimes as an industry, we would better serve the consumer if we didn't write anything from opening day until like May 15th.
Yes.
And we just sort of showed up on May 15th and we're like, all right, what's been going on? And then did like a Roger Angel, like one 5,000 word story about the team you cover. Be like, hey, here's the deal. And then I'll have some daily stuff coming forward because everything else I probably made too big a deal of.
Yeah. No,
talking about 5,000 words like it's Roger Angel. That's a notebook on this website.
Spoken like a true editor.
Yeah, that's a man who was editing some copy when he came back from vacation.
I err so much on the side of my previous preconceptions to the point where, like, I remember in 2000 and Albert Pujols breaks camp with the Cardinals, and I'm going, come on, this guy's he's 21 years old. He's had like 120 games of A-ball. No way. And he's like hitting, and someone in my fantasy league's like, I got to get this guy. And I'm like, no. It's going to, trust me, fellas. Like, I've never heard of this guy. He's going to fall back, and then he doesn't. So I always err on that side where I'm missing the boat And then I look and go like, whoa, that team's pretty good. And so like I'm always late on the boat. And I think there's a happy medium where it's not April, but I don't think it's like July, like my, ass is sinking.
I think it's sooner than it used to be.
Yeah.
Because the statistics that are sort of that StatCast ilk, they normalize a little bit sooner. So I think it's not easier, but like you have at least something with some backing to help you spot the ones where it's like, there might be something real about that. Like Matt Chapman. I think of Matt Chapman, right? Like you look, he was a player of the month or player of the week and all this stuff. You see he's hitting like 400 or whatever it is. It's crazy. But then you also look and see that he's leading the league or really close to it in exit velocity right now. And, again, it's a small sample, but with statistics like that, the sample doesn't have to be as big as, let's say, a batting average or whatever to put some stock into it. So I think it's easier to at least like look and be like, hey, there might be something to that. And Matt Chapman like popped into my mind right away as one of the guys right now where you're like, whoa, that's interesting, especially obviously them going into his walk here, right? Like the timing's great, but we've had enough sample size where it at least makes you pay attention to it a little bit more. And if this goes on for another couple weeks and the exit velocities sort of stay the same, you're just like, oh boy, now all of a sudden it's like this guy, this could be a dude, like big time guy for them. Where their lineup was dangerous already, right? To have Matt Chapman operating at that kind of capacity was silly. Speaking of that, Vlad Guerrero Jr. right now, holy smokes. Anyway.
Yeah, but they haven't played the Rays yet, so.
That's right. Big test. It actually, that's
huge series.
About an early season series, like that's pretty damn good.
It's good showing me 8 series in April.
Oh man, because the Jays like have played all these crazy ass games, and they've won a couple of them just by like basically outslugging the other guys, right? So that's a sight to behold if that lineup continues to just tear it up, because they might be deeper than we even thought, which is crazy. But anyway, that's what I think in a week or less than a week from now, Rays and Jays. So that should be fun.
I think it's this weekend.
Wow.
Now, that's a great point, because we are talking about almost like when I was a stat nerd in my early days and like last year, like it was all about like, here's what this player did and here's what we can extrapolate that going forward. Here's his body of work, minor league, major league. Here's what he has done, these numbers, his strikeout to walk ratio. Going forward, we're just going to ignore batting average because that fluctuates, and that's how we're going to make our decisions. But we're in a post-statistic world in a way where it's now it's the biomechanics, it's the seam shifted wake, it's the spin rate. It is like you're taking this physical data, and it's not just numbers, but you're analyzing how they're performing physically, and you get a team like the Rays that says, Zach Eflin, his career ERA with the Phillies was what? I'm going to look this up right now. It was with the Phillies 4.49, right? Over 129 starts. And the Rays can look at him and go, nope, should be better. He was better later in his career than he was earlier in his career. But they can just see through those numbers and go, no. What he does, you can't teach. But what we can teach him, he can apply what he already can do, and boof. And that's just how it's going to be for all these teams. And so, yeah, it's a great point. It stabilizes a lot quicker for a lot of these teams.
It happens so fast.
Grant, Eflin gave up 3 runs in 6 innings against the A's. You have got to chill. You have to chill.
That's a quality start, my dude.
That's a rig could make it through the 3rd against the A's.
Do we want to play like who's on the A's right now? Have you looked at
you don't.
Tony Kemp. Let's go.
Tony Kemp. That's a good.
Tony Kemp's an Oakland Athletic.
Yeah, I Shintaro Fujinami, like
he's an Oakland Athletic.
He is I feel really bad for him because he has had a great career with the Hanshin Tigers, and but he's always struggled with command.
Yeah.
And now he's just going to like the one major league team that has like they don't even have an analytics department anymore. They've got like Chat GPT, and they just like feed in like, what are some hot baseball statistics, AI? And that's all they got right now, because they need someone who can say, here's how to cut down on your walks. Formerly excellent professional pitcher, and they just they can't do it. They're the A's.
His mom was in the ballpark for his big league debut, and I feel like it started off pretty well, and then there was an 8-run inning. And I was just thinking the whole time, like, oh man, what's a long way to come to watch, your kid just get like bludgeoned by the Angels. I think it was the Angels, but like, it's just brutal. But like, it was cute and then not cute. You know what I mean? Like, oh dang it, but anyway, that's Langoliers. That's an Oakland Athletic.
Yeah, Kyle Muller, off-season catch partner with Clayton Kershaw. Learn something new every day.
Brian's Chiron says lots of seating available in Oakland, but I have to where's that? What's that apostrophe, man?
What the hell?
Yeah, dude.
What the hell?
You got 3 writers on here. Well, 2 writers, and I don't know what we call Mark. But no, but again, I've said it on the pod before, and I'll say it again. Terrible for the A's, great for me. I just love space. Just put that canopy up, and you're grilling, and there's nobody around. I can grill like what's that, like shark that they bury under the snow in Finland and then let it ferment?
Oh, yeah.
I could grill that. No one's gonna give me what for,
That's the one that Steve Cohen bought in formaldehyde, or is that a different shark?
That's a good one.
Is there a team? We talked last week about like which team was in first place, who maybe we bought. Is there like a last place team who like I guess what I'm asking is, what you got on the Cardinals?
That's what's going to be my pick. Listen, if this keeps going like it's going, Yadier Molina, first ballot Hall of Famer, maybe even waive the 5-year waiting period, because I'm just going to give him all the credit for everything that happened during his reign. It's wild. I mean, you've got Goldschmidt's hitting and Arenado's hitting. Wainwright's obviously out. Lars Nootbaar has missed some time, but I'm not sold on the Cardinals. Yeah, I'm also not sold on the Cardinals.
Same. It is interesting when a team that appears to be pretty good, and I think the Cardinals will be pretty good, but they have a pretty clear deficiency that will probably prevent them theoretically from, attaining a championship, as they say, and it's their starting pitching, right? Like their starting pitching is just too many 4s and 5s, right? Mm-hmm. And it's interesting when a team like that comes out and just immediately provides a sample that matches that opinion.
Right.
They do. It's like, oh yeah, wow, that's what I thought was going to happen. That's crazy.
That's about right. And you talk about the Rays pitching factory, and I'm not sure that the Cardinals have that, not necessarily the factory, but the identification. So like when you're going out and you've got X amount of clams to spend, and you're looking at Steven Matz, you know what I mean? It's like some teams have that ability to pluck the correct answer, whether it's Kevin Gausman or someone like that. The Cardinals haven't shown that proclivity, and they've been kind of buoyed for a long time by Adam Wainwright, who's 75 years old, and like he's just like anchored that top of the rotation for so long. It's taken 20% of the guesswork out of their rotation. I guess Jack Flaherty looks good in this year. No.
He's walked 13 guys in 2 games.
Oh, I was a call him off. Oh, that's not good.
I mean, that could correct. I will say the one thing with the Cardinals that they have done, that they've actually done really well, and especially at the deadline, is they tend to find guys who will benefit from having the defense behind them, right? They catch the baseball. So they find 5s who play up like 4s, 4s who play up like 3s. The problem is that they kind of stop there. And they haven't found a guy who you actually feel great about starting game 1. That was supposed to be Flaherty, but the physical issues have kind of been in the way in recent years.
Andy was just describing Jordan Montgomery right there. But I need some help here, because I was on vacation. All right. I took the kids to Disney World. So, I mean, I've been paying some attention, obviously, but not as locked in as I normally would be. Did O'Neill back over Ollie Marmol's cat? Because there was a big to do, I guess, between those two, and it had to be something like that, right?
There's got to be a little bit deeper of something that's bubbling on the surface. I think, the issue is that he didn't run as hard as perhaps was warranted to score in a play. But that just doesn't come out of nowhere. You're not just cool with a player and then like, whoa, once you didn't try and run home as fast as you could, you're dead to me. That's probably not what happened. So I don't know, but that is not helping things. That's for sure.
I mean, not to make too big, because stuff like that's going to happen during a season. Okay. And it just so happens that it happened in their first week when they weren't playing very well. But like, I saw the replay of that after seeing the reaction. I was like, geez, how bad was this? And then I looked at the replay. I was like, he wasn't busting it, but he also wasn't like jogging either. So like what? Yeah,
it seemed he was at like cruising speed.
I mean, but it wasn't like I thought it was going to be like brutal. And that happens sometimes, right? Where like I'm like, dude, these guys aren't perfect. You're playing 162 games. There are going to be times where like you misread something or think like you're in, and like there was a play last week where someone got thrown out because they didn't slide, right? Like stuff like this happens all the time. But like I just remember thinking, God, the punishment versus the crime ratio seemed off, and so it was weird.
Especially since O'Neill is a guy who's dealt with injuries, and it seems like they've had conversations about trying to manage that and to not. But you're right, Mark. Like watching the play, I wanted to see like, oh, what does he do? Like, does he hit the brakes coming into third? It's like, no, he just kind of was at like cruising speed, and it's possible that that's just the speed he runs at. He wasn't like visibly busting it, but he also wasn't visibly jaking it per se.
Right.
And so the reaction, you're like, okay, something. So, and then for O'Neill to come out the next day and being like, we talked about this. Like, that's not how we do things around here. It's like, oh yeah, this is going great.
Yeah. I mean, your back is to the play when you're running. So it's like maybe he just had this sense of it wasn't going to be as close as it was. I don't know, man. It did seem very, very weird. So maybe it's sort of like I'm erring on the side of logic. Like it's, if you're a manager, you're going to be doing something for some reason. So he must have done something in the past that's like built this foundation of reasons to be annoyed. I'm not seeing it from here. And it's bad timing because they are stinking it up early in the season.
Maybe they'll trade him for the 2023 equivalent of Mark Zepchinski and win the World Series. Who knows?
Good drop.
All things serve the bean.
Wow, we really just hit a wall, didn't we?
The Cardinals do that to you, man. St. Louis takes the life out of you, man.
I had something to say, and usually what happens when my brain leaves my body and has an out-of-body experience, I just spin, and then one of you starts talking, and then I come back to it. And then it's like the best point of the pod. But I need you guys to kind of lift me up, prop me up when my brain leaves my body.
I will tell you that I have yet to see anything that has really changed my opinion about anything.
That's probably about right.
That is my take. Like I have like a stance for like kind of April baseball, and I've written about this a few times, but it's like none of this matters, but all of it counts.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right? Like and that does, so that's the lens that I just look through it. Like, okay, like I'm not one of those people who's like, well, who cares, that they won 10 games, like but it doesn't really matter, but it counts in the standings.
I used to write on May 15th. I would write an article that it was the stats that we would be talking about, the teams, the players we'd be talking about if April didn't exist. And what I'm doing is I'm taking 15 games worth of action in May, and I'm doing like, wow, this dude's hitting 400. Maybe this is the year for him. And like, I forgot about those columns, and someone brought it up to me, and it warmed my heart because, my gosh, someone actually remembered something I wrote. That's just delightful. But I want to do that again because it is true. Like it's just, and you can do it in the second half too. Like all of a sudden 2 weeks in after the All-Star break, and you've got the Pirates are 10-0. Like, wow, this is, or not even 10-0, but like 9-3. Right. Wow, this is something, right? The Pirates, they're back. It's all, it's all ephemeral.
God, great word.
I didn't know if I used it right or pronounced it right.
Kind of.
Wow.
Okay.
I love that. That's like a $20 word on the podcast right
Yeah,
now.
I'm a
Very
writer.
nice. Huge upgrade.
Thank you.
English guy.
Remember this for my review.
Yeah,
That's
Grant,
funny.
you should bring that back. That's a great. It does like. That's what I'm saying is we should show up on May 15th and just be like, here's what's been going on for the last 6 weeks, because every year
It's so bad.
we got to do discourse about the baseballs. What are the baseballs juiced again this year? Are they not? It'll normalize every year. It's like, oh, I'm worried about that guy's velo. And then it's like, oh, actually, it was cold. Every year they're like, oh, there's fewer home runs at Citi Field. It's like, yeah, Steve Cohen built a huge video screen that's going to knock down all the wind, so there actually will be more home runs. I don't know. I botched that joke, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, every year it's the same thing, and I like to prepare for this podcast or to like get some ideas for discussion. I stared at the stolen bases for every team and the caught stealings. And it was like trying, like the hamster wheel on my head was just spinning and spinning, trying to make some grand point. And it's like, no, like it's 2 weeks, and no, we don't have anything. Like we can't extrapolate like, oh, this is great news for the Orioles, but it's bad news for the Dodgers. Like we can't do that. I hate it.
Well, the only thing that counts are the injuries, right? Really?
Yeah, basically, yes.
Right, because we were talking about the Boston Red Squints and Duval playing center field, and of course, like he gets off to this great start and then gets hurt playing center field.
Yep.
So I mean that part counts, but like that Andy's line is great, right? It was it none of this matters, but all of it counts.
Yeah.
Perfect.
But it really is just like it's just injuries at this point.
Yeah, totally.
I would I don't want to blow your minds. All of this matters. What is this? Wait, say it again. Say the line.
All of this matters, but none of it counts.
Or no, none of this matters, but all of it counts.
All
Let's
none
try
of
it
this
again.
matters, but all of it counts.
How about instead of April baseball, we use that for life in general.
Wow.
None of this matters, but all of it counts. This podcast you're listening to, man, it doesn't matter, but it counts. It counts. Life.
It better.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm not going to get these 45 minutes back, and neither will all the roundtable heads.
So let me do some quick math here. No, actual math, not my stupid joke. I have talked with Andy Baggerly. Like, let's do 227 episodes times. We're on for about 40 minutes at a time. 9,000 minutes, and then you divide that by 60. Oh, this is great podcast. You can get me working this out in real. 151 hours I've talked to Andy Baggerly about the Giants, and then you do that by hours in a day. That's like 6 days of my life talking to Bags. Is a nice guy. I like Bags, but none of it matters. We're talking like Tyler Heineman and stuff, like Chadwick Trump. None of it matters, but all of it counts.
One time we were going through my Marriott days that I've stayed in the Marriott.
That's a bad
on
thing
the app.
to do.
And so it came out to like 5 years or something like that in a Marriott. And Bill Plaschke, the esteemed columnist from the LA Times, was like, 5 years, you could have become a doctor.
They don't tear your beds down when you're a doctor, though.
Yeah, that's life.
All right, this has been episode 44 of the Baseball Roundtable. Andy, say something about the 2015 Royals.
If they had not played sub 500 baseball in September, they would accurately be remembered as one of the best teams of the decade, and not a punchline on this podcast.
There it is.
I
was just looking at the expenses. Andy, did you put in for that trip for Lorenzo Cain Day?
Look, leave me alone. Actually, is my personal stance is leave me alone.
Leave me alone.
This is episode 44 of the Roundtable. We will be back next week. We do every week, and we'll talk about baseball because that's what we do. Thanks for listening. We'll see you then.